Alright, for this particular video, we're going to be discussing functions in JavaScript. Functions are just a reusable block of code to carry out tasks and operations, right? So it's just a module where you can write out the code once and then just call it by the function name. So for example, when you have a function, typically you'll have something like a function name. Then you'll have parentheses, and within these parentheses, you can have arguments, right? And then it'll be with an open curly braces, a pair of curly braces, and then you'll have some code that runs in the middle over here. And typically, when you call the function, you'll just call the function name and provide any arguments if needed. And just calling it by this will execute this whole function, right? And this is typically the format. This should be a lowercase f, but a typically function, right? This function is a keyword in JavaScript, followed by the function name, which could be something like add, do something, right? And there are certain rules for naming functions, and they're all very similar to the identifier rules for variables. And function names are case sensitive, right? Capital function name will be different from a lowercase starting function name. Function names, they start with alpha characters, just meaning the alphabet, upper or lowercase A through Z, starts with an underscore or a $sign. Now, when your function names, you can have numbers too, but your first character cannot be a number. It has to be an alpha character, an underscore, or a $sign. And there is a convention to not use underscores as the first character as a naming convention, right? And it cannot contain spaces and reserved keywords, right? You don't want reserved keywords as your function name because you're having a naming conflict, and your function names cannot have spaces. Instead of spaces, you can use an underscore. To declare a function, again, function keyword with the function name, and then arguments if there are arguments within your function. And over here, so let's do an example of a function, right? We're going to use the keyword function, and let's do add. All right, we're going to have two arguments, x and y. Open a pair of curly braces, and for this, we're just going to return x, y, right? Put a semicolon there, put a semicolon there. Both semicolons are redundant, but I just do it anyways. And then we're going to do add, and let's provide two arguments, 2 by 8. This should give us an output of 16, right? Add 2, 8. Here. Program is running. As you can see, we got 8, right? Because we're adding, oh, wait, oops, my mistake. X plus, not 16, it should be 10, x plus y. All right, there we go. Now we get 10. So that's a function right there. Now we also have something called function expressions. Now this is what makes functions first class or higher order citizens, per se. Function can also be defined with an expression. A variable can be assigned to a function. So what do we mean by that? So we have this add here, all right? Notice this. Now let me just back this. Now what we can do is we can have a variable x, and we can assign it a function like this, function add. Over here we could say 2 or 3. Let's provide variable names instead, right? And we can return a plus b, right? Then we'll call the function, and we'll do 1 times 9 this time. And we should get 10. 1 plus 9 is 10. So this is how you're going to assign a function to a variable. Notice how it's not, we don't use the add function here, but it's rather the x. Right? So this is a function expression. Now, we have something, method versus function. Now, they are not the same thing. They are actually distinct, right? A method is a feature of an object or a class, right? So there are some built-in methods for objects or classes, right? And they're not independent pieces of code. They'll be belonging to that object and class. We'll discuss this further when we're going over object or classes, right? And a function is independent. It's an independent block of code. So that's the major difference between function versus method. Alright, that's it for functions as a small intro. For more videos, hit that subscribe button. Thank you.